Allan Kerr, and I'm going to talk today about trench art, the various types and its origin. Basically, trench art started in the War of 1812 with French prisoners in ships in the rivers in England. They made items to sell and to trade for better food, cigarettes, and so on. The trench art continued throughout the years, but eventually it was normally made by civilians to sell to the soldiers. The various types of trench art are souvenirs crafted by soldiers during the war, souvenirs made for sale by soldiers or civilians, souvenirs made by prisoners of war in exchange for food, mementos that were made by soldiers in hospitals, and post-war souvenirs made for tourists visiting the battlefield. And also many commercial items were made to sell to the soldiers as souvenirs, particularly of the Great War, that is World War I. Trench art wasn't as common in the Second World War as in the Great War, but soldiers often made jewelry. And here's two examples of jewelry. The bronze one is using military officers' pips together with a small badge. The other one is made up of silver coins. And these are made into, in this case for the arms, or so often they're made into brooches, that sort of thing to send home. Another common type again is the cigarette ashtray. In this case it is a cigarette lighter and an ashtray using a shell in the center and parts of a large round in the bottom. I have a pair of bookends here made, and this is for joint operation between Canada and the United States. On this side, it's United States Navy, Kodiak, Alaska, August 1942. On the other side is Royal Canadian Navy, Kodiak, Alaska, August 1942. Here is a pair of brass candelabra made out of different types of shells and with a high polish. Early in the Great War, when somebody died, a bronze was sent to the family. This one here reads, "He died for freedom and honor, Arthur Robinson." Later on, industry would contact the family and say, "Wouldn't you like a nice oak plaque to put the bronze in?" The bronze are commonly called the death penny. In World War I, a very common souvenir were these cards. Now these were sent home as a postcard, and the work on the face of the card was done by women in France and Belgium, and they made it by the meter. And then it was sold to the card company, who cut them and made cards for it to be sent home. Again, in World War I, soldiers often made items with hand tools. In this case, this is a piece of shrapnel that has been worked with a file into the shape of a knife with the shrapnel piece as the handle. I have in my hand a set of knives that were made by German prisoners in a camp, using materials that they would find on the battlefield, and was given to them by their guards to make these. Again, if you can keep the prisoners busy doing things, it's less likely that they will make trouble for you. And this was very common for prisoners to make things in camps. And in this case, it's a set of knives with famous battles in World War I engraved on the blade of the knife. Quite often prisoners were able to make elaborate items. This is a case of the ship, in this case the Bismarck. And I don't know which camp this ship was done in, but they are fairly common because people tend to keep them and as memories. They come on sale a number of times through the year. Another way of involving the children in the war effort was through the school books. These school scribblers, the cover all has a item to illustrate the war effort. The one here was the Army soldier. There was also ones for the airman and the sailor. This one is a general one for the Army, and here is one for Britain's involvement with the war. The children's item that we've talked about is part of the Museum of the Canadian Military Preservation Society here in Edmonton. The museum is open most days in the morning and by special request. There are many other items besides the children's display in the museum, and some of them will be presented in later segments.